Bruce Cassidy's benching of veterans, could it backfire? Coming up next, right here on Locked On Golden Knights.
You're Locked On Golden Knights, your daily podcast on the Vegas Golden Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hi again, everyone. Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. You could find us on places like Apple and Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. And please subscribe to our Locked On Golden Knights YouTube channel. We are brought to you today by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Simply go and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL. Chris, Bruce Cassidy sat Nick Hague and Zach Whitecloud on Sunday. Was it a temporary move to get the players motivated? Your guess as good as mine. Did Cassidy get these players going, perhaps? Did he sit them after Alec Martinez returned to the lineup for VGK, putting him in the lineup with Ben Hutton? Hague with 12 points, 2 goals in 58 games. And a -7. And Whitecloud, 50 games played this season, -6 with 8 points. 2 seasons ago, 19 points and a +21 for Whitecloud. Played just 59 games last year due to injury, upper body injury in January for him. So I'm going to make a case here this day and talk about this move. And can it backfire? I think it can, because it's happened before. It happened in Boston, right? A day after Cassidy, case in point, after he benched Jake DeBrusk, a healthy scratch, we saw where DeBrusk's agent asked for a trade there in Boston. And it pretty much signaled, I think, in Boston, the beginning of the end for Cassidy, along with some other factors and the way that he treated rookies, and they had to earn their dues. And Cassidy almost single-handedly also caused Nick Foligno to leave the team, now with Chicago, as you know, but a former Bruin and a Maple Leaf. So, yes, this move could backfire, in my opinion. I really do think that this could be something that could be detrimental. I'm just curious, too, how this move sits with the VGK locker room.
This is a path that Cassidy has been down before with the Golden Knights, starting last year with Phil Kessel. I remember a conversation where Cassidy was asked how Kessel handled when he basically said, "Hey, I'm benching you." Cassidy says he didn't like it. No one likes being benched, especially a veteran of however many games, obviously well over 1,000 for Phil Kessel. And then Coach Cassidy did talk about the conversations a little bit in his press conference yesterday. And basically, when he has these conversations with these vets, with these players, he tells them, you don't have to like it. Like, you don't have to like the fact that you're being benched, and you really only have to accept it, but you have to move on from it. And I think you have to credit the locker room in this case. The Golden Knights locker room has been pretty good this year, despite a lot of poor play for long periods of time. But I don't feel the locker room is in major turmoil. I don't feel there's been any turning on each other, although Braden McNabb did suggest that was possibly happening after one of the games, potentially. Could it backfire? Sure, anything could definitely backfire. I think this is a more positive thing. And I think the messaging that Cassidy had in the press conference yesterday was key. He's not looking for the moment that Hague and Whitecloud get back in the lineup, or in the case of Hutton and Martinez getting in the lineup. He's not asking these players to be the best players on the ice. He's not asking them to be the number one difference makers. He's not asking them to overcompensate for the fact that, hey, you're being benched, or, hey, you were just benched, now you're getting back out there. He went back to we want you to be the best version of yourselves. And I think Hague and Whitecloud will get a chance to get back in as well at some points.
Well, how soon? And again, is this a move because, as Cassidy said a couple of days ago, they have 8 defensemen, so odd man out. And maybe if I were him, I perhaps would cite that they have a lot of depth there. But talk about the play so far, especially for Whitecloud, because I know that earlier, maybe a couple of months ago, we were looking at his play and it wasn't really consistent or good, or he was not even noticed. He wasn't noticed. It was unnoticeable, his play on the ice.
Yeah, so for Whitecloud, the biggest thing that I cited was his year over year on his plus minus. His year over year plus minus is a concern. I know I probably put more stock into plus minus than most, but you have a player who, in really his first full-time NHL work, he's a plus 9, then a plus 21, then a plus 10, and now this year he's minus 6. He is minus 6. That's a concern for me, especially for the third D pairing. Does the third D pairing need to be, as strong as the other 2 D pairings? Of course not, but there's certainly going to be high expectations for what Whitecloud and Hague have shown us previously. Just pulling up his game logs here right now. I mean, nothing offensively, and he's got 1 assist in it looks like the last 11 games. A lot of minuses. I mean, his last 2 games, he's a -1, even, -1, -2, even, +1, -1, -1, -2. So going back 11 games, he's been on the minus side, I think 8 of 12 games. And that's certainly a concern. Something I've talked about a ton lately is the razor thin margin between wins and losses. And that razor thin margin gets even smaller come playoff time. One bad play, you lose a game in the playoffs. That's how it goes. You got a lot of 2-1 hockey and stuff like that. And if Whitecloud loses a single puck battle, if he's not, playing well enough in those battles, one bad turnover, which he's had a lot of, that certainly could be the difference between winning and losing. That's where that experience from Hutton and Martinez totaling like 1,300 something games versus Whitecloud's and Hague's 500 something games. That comes into play big time.
Yeah. How do you think it impacts Hague?
Sorry, I had the coffee going to the mouth. You don't stop momentum in the morning.
No. I had to get you there. I caught you.
Yeah, there's nothing that could stop coffee right now because we're going a little bit earlier today.
And the other thing I also do is try to make it come out of your nose at times. We've accomplished that.
Try hard. I'm sure you can pull it off if you try hard enough. But Nick Hague, he's tough to read, right? You don't get a lot from him, good, bad, or otherwise. And that's not a knock on him by any means. He's very even. There was a fan that tagged me in a photo. I think he did a signing on Saturday afternoon or Friday afternoon. And Hague's smile didn't necessarily look that of an excited Golden Knight player. It looked more like someone who might have learned a couple hours ago they were going to be probably a healthy scratch for really the first time since they've been a normal professional or a daily professional is probably the better way to say that. So, and again, we're reading a lot more into that than what's probably there, but I just thought that was kind of interesting. How will Hague handle it? That's the question. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know how Hague, I feel like Whitecloud has a little more maturity, but that's not because I don't think Hague has the same level of maturity. Just Whitecloud gives you a lot more in the interviews. He gives you a lot more analysis. Nick Hague is kind of like Logan Thompson, and kind of like Logan Thompson, where the answers are kind of quick. He speaks very quietly, very deep voice, very intimidating. So kind of hard to read. What happened behind closed doors? I mean, I don't think Nick Hague is a type that started turning over tables and throwing stuff and swearing at Cassidy. But hopefully they take it as a positive. And this is where the Golden Knights are fortunate to have in their last 2 D pairings, you have 1,800 games of NHL experience. That's a testament to the roster that McCrimmon has built. And you got 2 players in Whitecloud and Hague ready to be the best versions of themselves when Coach Cassidy calls upon them. There we go. There you go. That was way too corporate. That was awful.
Yeah, I know. You're talking about the company line.
You said something that was bad.
No, and in Boston, we do know the one thing that happened was Cassidy lost the locker room. he doesn't really mess with the leaders, I guess, according to his history, because, in Boston, he let the leaders lead, the veterans. Here in Las Vegas, he looks to Eichel, Pietrangelo, Stone when, he was available and all that. Probably not Marchessault because they're always fighting. But, he has those guys leading. And again, I talked about this a little bit yesterday, and Marchessault really sent out a signal to me saying, we got to stop being so sensitive. We have to play like men. And then a few days later, we see these scratches and just a change here in the mindset and what have you. If Cassidy had sat one of the players, then I don't think I would be too alarmed. But with two starters now, and I know you have to find a place for Martinez to play, and now that you have like players like Hannafin there in the lineup, things will change, right? They do have more depth, but we'll have to see how this shakes out. He lost the clubhouse in Boston. Players were not responding. And I just remember Don Sweeney saying, the general manager there of the Bruins, that Cassidy and all this chirping and what have you, and just the way that he lays into players, it does take a toll. It takes a toll of some sort. And I'm sure that things are different now that the Vegas Golden Knights have captured a Stanley Cup. Everything changes. We've talked about that before. So much changes. Some players get a little bit more cocky and more attention, and so many things happen, so many variables.
I'm glad you mentioned Marchessault, because if not, I was going to mention Marchessault, and I just have to speculate. There you go, Golden Knights speculates. I have to speculate on what the true relationship is with Marchessault and Cassidy, and if that has anything to do with Cassidy or with Marchessault not having an extension yet. It's a fair question to ask based on so many comments that have come out of both of their mouths through the media throughout, the last really year and a half now. It's been about that long since those two seem to not stay out of each other's way. And all relationships don't have to be perfect by any means. Like, let's be clear about this. That's just, human nature. But, you got to wonder what those conversations are like between Cassidy and McCrimmon, and Marchessault's name, I'm sure, gets brought up. I'm sure to a degree Cassidy is involved in some of these discussions when it comes to the future of the roster. Going back to Boston, Coach definitely had a lot to learn, and I feel like Coach Cassidy definitely did a better job of not necessarily calling out singular players in post-game press conferences in Vegas like he did in Boston, but that's also been changing a little bit throughout this season too.
Yeah, we still like Cassidy, but yes, he can.
No
wear
doubt.
on players. We know about
this.
This
Was not a crap on Cassidy segment.
No.
Let's be clear about this. This was not a crap on Cassidy segments.
Coming up next, it is another must-win. You didn't have it on the slate today. Come on, bro. The preview of VGK and Tampa Bay. We'll talk about that when we return right here on Locked On Golden Knights. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contest. What players would you take this week to win 100 times the money? Fans can also play daily fantasy sports like NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, college football on Sleeper, and you could connect with other fans. Entries can be made in under a minute, and all you have to do is pick whether a lot of these studs, like we'll see one tonight there with Tampa. We'll talk about Kucherov here in a moment. You can pick studs like him and others, McKinnon, usually those two come to mind. To win 100 times your bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8-player statistics. You heard us, VGK fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your pick so that you can win and win big. Just again, use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL when you go to Sleeper. You'll get up to $100 match play on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use. We are back on this edition of Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We appreciate it so much. Lightning preview, must-win game. Must win every day. Today
That's
is a
pretty good, huh?
must-win day, too, for all of us here. And don't forget, on Fridays, it's WTF with the Friday. Saturdays, the Chris Times Chris Show, which is the YouTube exclusive. So, VGK faces Tampa Bay tonight, looking to bank some more points. Of course, really tight races, not only in the West, but in the East, where we see Tampa currently fourth place, I think, in the Atlantic. 6 teams are within 7 points of the Lightning there. This is going to be a fantastic finish. You might want to put that up there on the site too tomorrow. Fantastic finish. 14 games remaining for VGK, Chris, and now tied with the Kings at 79 points apiece. Lightning off of the win against Florida. They led in that game 4-0, and then suddenly the Panthers were back in that game. It was 4-3. Panthers outshooting the Lightning 50-16. 50-16. Another hot team, though, comes into T-Mobile Arena having won 3 straight. Tampa Bay. Should be a fun one tonight.
Wow, Kucherov, you talk about that in all of our advertisements and fantasy points. I feel like if you're taking him to go over in every single game, he's got 114 points. 114 points. Unless it's an all-star game, the dude is a friggin' beast out there. Braden Point, 73. Hedman, a defenseman with 67. I mean, this is certainly a very powerful team. Vasilevsky, 41 games. 898 save percentage. That's probably his lowest save percentage in quite some time. 296 goals against. So this Tampa Bay Lightning team is a shadow of its former self. They're always that kind of forgotten team right now in the Atlantic because you're looking at what Boston, Toronto, and Florida are doing. And, you know, Tampa is probably a team kind of like the Golden Knights, right? You got a lot. You don't have that. I mean, you got that high end, obviously, points in Kucherov, but as far as just a lot of vets on the team, there is some good goaltending. Vasilevsky, numbers not as good as Aiden Hills, but Vasilevsky, a very accomplished goalie, to say the least. Golden Knights in Tampa have had some fun finishes. They've had some close games. They've had some overtime games. I think last time they played was where Alec Martinez got the overtime game winner, if I'm not mistaken, where he went crashing into the net, knocked it off the mooring, and puck winds up in the back of the net.
No, wasn't that the game December that the Lightning won?
I'm going back last season.
Oh, last season. Okay. Yeah, the other guy was in net earlier this season in December, right?
Which other guy? Patera?
Yeah, the other guy.
Oh, too many other guys. But they're always
Nicholas
fun games.
Paul,
They're
the
usually
game winner. Nick Paul.
That's right. Winner. That was a fun. I do remember that game. Patera just couldn't get across now that I think about that.
Yeah.
But they always play close games. They play tight games, and they're usually pretty physical. So should be a very entertaining game tonight at T-Mobile.
Yeah, and you talked about that save percentage there for Vasilevsky. The thing that I really noticed was they have injuries to defensemen. Hayden Fleury was out with an injury. I think he's back. So they did get an acquisition there at the trade deadline, and that is Matt Dumba from the Coyotes, a sandpaper guy, and a guy that was in the middle of so many fracases the other night. In that Florida-Tampa game, Tampa had 11 minutes more in penalty time than Florida. So there were a lot of penalties. It was a sloppy game, but a fun game and very entertaining. And I think we could see that happen tonight once again. But Dumba, the acquisition of him, they recalled another defenseman from their AHL franchise in Emil Lilberg. So, yeah, they've had some issues there defensively, and we'll have to see how this shakes out tonight. Kucherov, 3 points against VGK in that last meeting. And last week he had 7 points, 2 goals, 5 assists, and was one of the top 3 players in the NHL. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. Oh, and, you know, you were talking about Marchessault. Steven Stamkos, also they said, hey, you need to wait till the end of the season before we start discussing an extension. So he'll be a free agent at the end of the season too, just like Marchessault. But any other thoughts?
Stamkos to Vegas, Marchessault to Tampa. I don't know. No, I mean, I think it's a fun game coming up. Tampa's on a 3-game win streak, but they just traveled, right? They played in Florida. against the Panthers on the 16th, so a couple days ago, and then they're in Vegas tonight. So the Golden Knights have a shot to maybe take advantage of the game early, although the Golden Knights haven't had good starts. They let one puck get into the back of the net early in the game over the weekend against the Devils, disallowed, but the puck still got in the net. So if the Golden Knights can have an on-time start, they can give themselves a cushion because Tampa's going to get better as this game progresses. So probably the number one key to the game outside of puck management and all that drama we keep talking about is going to be a really good first 6 minutes. I'm going to say 10 minutes, like a really
10.
good 4 minutes of the game, a really good
10
first
minutes,
4 minutes.
Pete DeBoer. Quote Pete DeBoer, first 10 minutes.
You said someone got outshot 40-16. That was very Pete DeBoer as well.
50-16.
And the team that got the 16 shots probably won the game too, right?
Of course. That was Tampa.
Yeah.
They had five shots on goal, I think, early. I thought they had 4 goals on those 5 shots.
Pete DeBoer in a nutshell.
Okay. And VGK, yes, they need that quick start. I think both teams are pretty good in games where they scored first. Don't quote me on that. Don't put that on the slate. But also another major key would have to be net front presence for the Golden Knights.
Good call there. That's a really good call right there. And that's obviously where your bottom 2 lines really need to get. Well, it was more about the 4th line, I guess. And how about Mantha getting in a role like that? Mantha's got that big body, and I feel like that's really going to be his meal ticket to help the Golden Knights down the stretch.
I don't think they've utilized him, effectively, at least in his
Brett
early
Howden,
games.
Chandler Stevenson, Anthony Mantha does absolutely nothing for me. But Nick Waugh, Chandler Stevenson, Anthony Mantha does a lot for me.
Yeah, I thought that they'd put Mantha for sure because he's got that big body in the bumper position, but I've seen him just moving around there in front of the net, not being stationary at all. And I think he could cause a lot of traffic.
I'll give you one. You got called out on YouTube. You were talking about your favorite player, Keegan Kolesar, yesterday.
Yeah.
I think when Mark Stone comes back, I think Mantha actually could go down to the 4th line and push Kolesar out of the lineup.
See, now that would be good. Okay, so what happened? Wait. I got called out. That never happens.
Keegan Kolesar, he's a good player for the lineup.
But what were the fans saying on there? What are they saying?
Talking about Kolesar is fixed in the lineup and blah blah blah. And
they think he should be in.
I think he should be in the lineup until Stone is back.
Like that move.
And definitely
I like that move with Mantha. I like that.
I mean, listen, Nick. The possible 4th line of Nick Waugh will carry Anthony Mantha.
Yeah,
that's an incredible 4th line right there. Incredible 4th line.
Coming up next, we will have our locks of the night and our predictions. That comes your way next, right here on Locked On Golden Knights. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA account? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar that you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April the 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar that you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA account with a 3% match. This offer is good through April the 30th. Get started at Robinhood.com/boost, Robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal information. The claim is as of Q1 of 2024, and it is validated by Radius Global Market Research.
You got through it. Good job.
Welcome back on Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Yeah. A little bit of the.
I could hear.
I fought through it. Yeah, I fought through it.
You did good. No, that was
the thing
about
of
sandpaper.
Okay, yeah, there is some sandpaper in there this morning. But the thing that you have to remember, so in radio, they always tell you, like, you're coughing, whatever, you can't find the cough button. Just keep going. Just keep going. So that's what I did. And I fought through it, bro. I got sandpaper.
Good shift.
Okay, so our locks and predictions for tonight's game. I like the way Jack Eichel is starting to play, and he reached his 6 games there upon returning, and to celebrate, he took 8 shots. I think it was the 6th game. We haven't counted them, right? But you said the magic number was 6, thereabouts. Okay, he's finally back in playing shape. He's playing well defensively and offensively. And I'm going to go with Eichel. And Marchessault will get his 2 shots tonight because Eichel is a puck hog, as we know. And so Marchessault will get 2 shots, and he'll score on one of those. And but hang on there. Braden Point, the game winner for Tampa. Does this guy always kill VGK? I feel like he always scores. Everyone on Tampa scores. Okay,
Stamkos on the power play too. Stamkos, that one timer is so good.
It's ridiculous, right? I'm going to go Tampa 5-4 is my prediction in tonight's game. And thank you, boys, for holding up in this segment.
The cough, right? Okay,
you're going like this and you can't reach it.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I fought through it. Good shift, as you said. Thanks.
I'm going to go with the defense tonight. Hanifin, what's he, 4 or 5 points in his first 5 games or something like that with the Golden Knights. So I think Hanifin will find a way to have an effect on the scoring, whether it's assists or goals. And Shea Theodore, for lack of a better term, Theodore had a very bad game against the New Jersey Devils with being out of position. I didn't see him do a lot on the offensive side. Directly led to a couple of scoring chances for Jack Hughes and the New Jersey Devils on Sunday.
He pinched it. He was pinching in way deep.
He was pinching and didn't get his feet moving. It was a bad game. It happens. It was a bad game.
It was a bad game. Yeah, we'll throw that game out.
No, exactly.
Wait. Before your prediction, is this a must-win for VGK?
Sure. Well, let's say must win until he lose a game. Maybe we're gonna get the Golden Knights on a 12-game winning streak now because we'll keep saying must win games. So it's a must win game. Yes, must win game, 100%. Those of you on audio, if you're just listening, I'm making weird facial expressions when I say this. So Noah Hanifin, Shea Theodore, 3-2 Golden Knights, close game. Really want to see an effort similar to the New Jersey Devils with better finish. Credit Jake Allen for, really having a great game against the Golden Knights. I think the Golden Knights checked a lot of boxes in that game on Sunday, besides scoring on a New Jersey Devils team playing a back-to-back games. So let's see how they do it against Vasilevsky, who has, you like that? Let's see how they do against Vasilevsky, who is, I won't say a shadow of himself, but definitely not having a great season. Tony talked about the injuries to the Tampa Bay defense. So good shot for the Golden Knights. Take advantage of a team going cross country, early jump, 3-2 Golden Knights. Good, hard fought game.
Yeah. Vasilevsky in that last game faced 50 shots, saved 47 of 50 shots on goal. If
Vasilevsky right there.
Yeah. If they could get 50 shots on net, then I think VGK can win this game. But yeah, that's a lot of shots.
They don't need 50
I don't care who he is.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Don't forget, tomorrow we will have, of course, our recap of tonight's game between VGK and Tampa. On Fridays, it's WTF coming back. Thank you, voice. Appreciate you. I sure do appreciate all the everydayers, too, for putting up with us. And on Saturdays, it's the Chris Times Chris show, the show that you cannot miss on YouTube. For my man, Chris Golick, I'm Tony Cardasco from Las Vegas. We appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Golden Knights. Take care.